How's it going, guys? It's Caveman PRDR, and today we've been playing a lot of PvP over the past week. Been playing a good bit of Iron Banner, and we've been specifically going for roles for the new Crucible weapon drop playlist weapon, and that is going to be Better Devils. Better Devils was a Season 1 hand cannon in the game. I never actually used it back in Season 1. I didn't use hand cannons until the end of Shadowkeep. Better Devils has returned to us as a strand 140 hand cannon. Like I said earlier, it comes back to us as a random weapon drop in the Crucible playlist, and specifically, I've been focusing rolls. I've probably spent like somewhere between 60 to 100 Crucible engrams to focus 4 rolls for this hand cannon. I did notice that it is kind of it looks like it's a 120, and so that confused me at first when when I saw it was announced that it was coming back. I was thinking, oh sweet, we're gonna have another 120 in the game. I would like to play with it. I didn't realize until a couple weeks after the final shape had landed that Bitter Devils was in fact a 140. So that was interesting to find out. But anyway, the first thing I want to break down is the recoil direction stat. But before we do, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, as both help out me tremendously as I make content for you guys. Thank you. Let's get on with the video. So, what we have here at the recoil direction, Better Devils has a base 88 recoil direction, so it will primarily go up and left. It's fairly vertical, but it's still a good little bit left as well. And I'm going to share screenshots of what that looks like for these different recoil direction patterns. So base 88, it's mostly vertical, still trends left. Then you have ways to modify that recoil direction 2 different ways after this. So you can modify it to go to 98 by either using chambered compensator or extended barrel to make it do a 98, which is significantly more vertical than before, still trends ever to the left. And then whenever you use something like Arrowhead Break, or if you use a counterbalance mod, that brings the recoil stat to 100, and it makes it significantly more vertical. I think 88 isn't bad, but I think 98 and 100 are going to be your more preferential recoils if you really wanted to pick one and that mattered to you that much. I will say the first 2 shots kind of trend left or kind of trend up and a little left, and then generally the third shot, regardless of which recoil direction stat you have, it kind of jumps hard right and up. So you'll kind of see that out on these, or notice that on these screenshots. So, with that being said, we're going to move along to the stat comparison, and let me tell you, this is going to be the weakest part of the hand cannon. This 140 does not stack up well at all against recent releases within the last 2 or 3 years of hand cannons in the same slot. So generally you have your 140s that maybe have a little bit better range and a little bit better stability stats, and then you have 140s in the game that have a little bit better handling and maybe a little bit better aim assist as well, kind of paired. So you kind of have that split between common ones like that, like your Fatebringer, your Ice Luna, and your Austringer. They're going to be better range and stability rolls than you're going to have your rolls like Spare Rations, Rose of Midnight Coup, where they're generally better handling, they're better aim assist, that's just what they do. They're not so good on range. Better Devils is the bad side of both. Better Devils has horrific stats. Its range stat is a 40, stability stat is 42, handling is 40, and reload speed is 40. And it's got the lowest base. It's tied for the lowest base aim assist of these 8 hand cans that I have on the screen. I am missing judgment on here, but I'm not too torn up about not having judgment on the screen. But that are direct competitors, it's failing. The It only it's only better range than Spare Rations. Spare Rations has a base of 36 and it ties Midnight Coup at 40. But both of those weapons are still going to have better handling stats, better aim assist stats. They're going to have better reload speed stats, significantly better. So Better Devils is starting at a very, very bad position. Better Devils is so far behind in competing against these other kinetic slot 140s. You're gonna have a hard time building rolls with this. Now that we've got those out of the way, let's go with the perks. So column 1 is your usual barrels, column 2 is your magazines. So column 3, we start off with redirection, rapid hit, rangefinder, moving target, perpetual motion, slice, perfect float, slick draw, enlightened action, pugilist, demolitionist, and the new perk air trigger. And then in column 4, you have one for all, opening shot, kill clip, explosive payload, zen moment, hatchling, frenzy, gut shot straight, elemental capacitor, deconstruct, adrenaline junkie, and swashbuckler. So you do have a couple of pairing perks that you have here, maybe for PvE enthusiasts. You could go Pugilist Swashbuckler. For melee builds, you could do Demolitionist, Adrenaline Junkie for your grenade type builds for PvE. This is going to be a mainly PvE. This is mainly going to be a PvP specific focused review. For PvE, you could also use Slice comboed with Hatchling for those of you that are doing hatchling builds or builds with strand synergy in general. So with that being said, let's kind of get into the roles and reviews. So just based off of these stats alone, you're going to have a really, really hard time competing with things in the meta, with things that have like 30 something range, 30 meters of range, 36 meters of range, 35, like your Ace of Spades, things in the meta. Kvostov has 28 meters, but if you're missing shots against the Kvostov, you don't stand a chance. The 140 RPM time to kill is great at a 0.87 with the 3 headshots, but it is super unforgiving, especially when you're fighting these kinds of weapons like a Shayura's, like your Kvostovs within their range. If you're not careful and you miss your shots, you're going to miss your shots. You're not perfect. You're not hitting them every time. You're going to lose fights to those weapons. That's just how it is. This weapon is very weak, especially when it comes to the stats. So I've been playing with rolls. I've gotten like probably anywhere between 200 to 300 kills so far in PvP just from trying out weapons this week, trying out rolls this week. And what I think I have come to the conclusion that no one else is going to be recommending for this. There are great perks on here. There is moving target. There's opening shot. There are great perks on this gun. There's explosive payload. There's zen moment. I'm going a different direction for the god roll, and I think you really have to address the weapon's weaknesses, which is stats. So, and these I'm going to recommend three rolls to kind of counteract stats, and then I'm going to recommend a fourth roll at the very end. So bear with me on this. So the first one, and this is going to be kind of needed to, you kind of have to do your build crafting for your build around based on these rolls. But first, we're going to land on our stasis base roll using full bore, using accurized rounds, perpetual motion, and elemental capacitor. Perpetual motion, gaining 1 to 2 stacks of perpetual motion increases stability, handling, and reload speed. At 1 stack, you get 10 stats. At 2 stacks, you get 20 stats of each. And then on elemental capacitor, You're going to get a varying stat bump based on what super you're using. With the stasis build, the recoil direction is going to be increased to max, so it's going to go up to 100. Like we talked about earlier, it makes it the most vertical possible. And what it also does on stasis is gives you 20% reduced ADS movement speed penalty. So whenever you're aiming down sights and you're strafing back and forth, it helps your strafe speed. So if, let's say you play the new Drewski build where he's using stasis, where he's using the prismatic Bacchus Hunter. I really like using this build with this. You're going to already have a higher mobility stat because that's tied to your class ability cooldown for Bacchus. This is going to help you along with your ADS movement speed penalty, or it's going to reduce that while you're ADSing. So this is going to be a weapon you can use with that build. Or this is how I'm going to build Better Devils around. Build Better Devils around with that build, where he's using grapple grenades, blink, and Mask of Bacchus dodge on the stasis super. So this is going to be my personal favorite and probably the true god roll for this weapon, in my opinion. You're going to be getting a lot of boosted stats. Like I said, you're going to be moving around a lot, so you're going to have a ton of opportunity to have perpetual motion times 2. And whenever you are ADSing and you are moving back and forth from your cover to cover, you're going to have, and whenever you're ADSing, you're going to have a faster strafe because your strafe penalty is going to be reduced while you're ADSing with elemental capacitor. I also recommend using One Quiet Moment over Nadir Focus, as One Quiet Moment grants a 20 handling and 40 reload speed, and also gives a 5% reload reduction to your multiplier. So, TLDR, you get passive handling whenever you're not in combat. So, One Quiet Moment over Nadir Focus, 100% on hand cannons. Nadir Focus, you're getting minor benefits for firing and hitting a target, but the problem is you need to do this on weapons that aren't single shot or have a faster rate of fire. This is simply hand cannons, especially the 140s and the 120s. Their RPM moves way too slow to really make an impact with the Nadir Focus. This is why you go with One Quiet Moment, so you can get that extra boost to handling and reload speed, and the reload speed multiplier as well. So always go One Quiet Moment over Nadir Focus on these hand cannons and those kind of single shot weapons like that. So this role specifically for this prismatic stasis hunter, you can get these, you can use these perks with a range masterwork. I think I personally like using either like using sprint grip or quick access sling. You could also use a targeting mod because the aim assist is so low, or you can use targeting adjuster because the aim assist is so low. This roll clears 30 or gets to 34 meters. That's going to be pretty much the best you can really do for range, is to get to 34 meters. You might could possibly find a way to pump out more, but you wouldn't be able to, not on this roll. You'd have to use something like opening shot, and I just don't value it that much on this build. So we're going to move right along to the Void version. The Void version is going to be recommending extended barrel, accurized rounds, perpetual motion, obviously elemental capacitor with One Quiet Moment as well. This roll will clear 33 meters of range, nearly 33 and a half. We're going to be using a range masterwork on this as well. And this is just going to help with the stability bonuses, which will help with the recoil, as well as help with the bloom reset on the hand cannon, help with the benefits on that. This roll also bumps you up 10 recoil direction to 98, so it helps you be a little bit more vertical, and you also have one quiet moment available where it will enhance your handling and reload speed when you are out of combat. We're going to go over to the final one, which is the arc roll. Again, we're going to be using extended barrel comboed with accurized rounds, perpetual motion. We're going to be using elemental capacitor as well as one quiet moment to get these extra boosts. Now, again, even though the arc roll with the handling does max out the handling stat, you still get other benefits when you're using one quiet moment for reload speed. So again, even though the handling stat is already maxed here, I'm still going with one quiet moment over Nadir Focus simply because of the reload speed and the reload speed multiplier animation scaler. And this roll will still clear 33 meters with a range masterwork. So we're going to go into the final roll, and the final roll that I will recommend will be the Kami Cakes roll. He did a video on it probably earlier this week, maybe later last week. I can't quite remember when that was. But if I'm not mistaken, he had came across a roll that had chambered compensator, steady rounds, it had perfect float and Zen moment. And I'm fairly certain he would use one quiet moment with it. So this roll gives you enhanced stability, as well as whenever you have perfect float activated, you can get a fairly high flinch resistance stat. Let's say you really value flinch resistance and you run tier 10. If you have perfect float activated before the effects of Zen Moment and you have a tier 10 resilience, you can have up to 43% increased flinch resistance. That is really, really good. That is a near 50% flinch reduction. That is really, really good in my opinion. And I think this roll, I personally would recommend using something like quick access sling as well, since the handling stat is going to be kind of low at times. So this roll also doesn't get to 30 meters. If you do use this roll, I recommend knowing your engagement distances, because this roll is going to be very hard to play against those kind of weapons that have those longer distances, like your Graviton Lances, your Red Death Reforms. You're going to have a really hard time playing against those kind of guns in this meta. So, with that being said, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good one.